Hello, this is cjhoyle. Today is Sunday, October the 10th, 2021, and I'm riding my bike here at the very eastern end of Whitby near the waterfront. I've just crossed from the city of Oshawa into the town of Whitby, and in this video I'm going to be giving a narrated tour of the eastern portion of the Whitby Waterfront Trail. If you're familiar with my YouTube channel, you'll know that I post a lot of narrated bike riding videos around the city of Toronto. And Whitby is a eastern suburb of Toronto, and it's actually the suburb where I originally was from, where I grew up. And this video is being filmed on the Sunday of the Thanksgiving long weekend, or the Canadian Thanksgiving long weekend. And I'm out this way visiting some family that still live out this end of the province. We've got a little bit of a boardwalk to cross here. The majority of the Waterfront Trail is paved asphalt like we're just about to ride on right here, but there are a couple of sections with bridges and boardwalks like that. The Whitby Waterfront Trail is pretty much continuous all the way from Oshawa to Ajax. There are a couple of minor road crossings along the way. So that means that the waterfront is owned by the government. As far as I know, all this land is government land. Although just a little bit to the north of the waterfront here, most of the land is privately owned, and it's very industrial for the most part. There are lots of big factories and other industrial sites. Here's another bridge we've got over top of a marsh, probably the continuation of the same marsh. Although this one's not a boardwalk, it's a metal grate. I can't ride over something like that without worrying that somehow my keys or my wallet or my phone or something is going to fall out of my pocket and end up slipping through the cracks. But thankfully I successfully made it across that one. So in this video we are riding, because we started at the very east end of Whitby, we are going to be heading in the west direction, although the trail does kind of snake around a little bit to avoid things like that marsh. We got a little bit of a hill to climb here as we sort of make our way from being pretty close to water level to sort of being a little bit higher. There's a big section of the Whitby waterfront that has sort of a cliff along the edge. And over here on the left we're passing a facility called the Corbett Creek Water Pollution Control Plant, which I believe is a wastewater treatment plant. It's where the water that you pour down your sink or flush down your toilet, where all those drains eventually end up and the water gets treated before it's put back into Lake Ontario. So it's quite a nice day today. The sky is kind of gray, but it's really quite warm. I would say it's definitely more than 20 degrees Celsius. As I'm doing this ride today, I'm wearing a pair of shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and I'm feeling definitely warm enough, even probably a little bit too warm, a little bit sweaty, which is kind of unseasonably warm for mid-October. Thanksgiving is sort of typically in southern Ontario expected to be kind of like sweater weather. But I'm sure we'll see lots of other people out today, even the people who are walking, who will be dressed the same as me. Short sleeves and shorts. And we continue our climb. And I believe this road that we're going to cross up ahead is Fixin Road, which is a major north-south street that runs from down here at the waterfront all the way through the town of Whitby. So yeah, a little bit of a crossing here. Then we continue on this trail on the other side. And my plan for this video is to get as far as about Henry Street. Well, look over there on the left, there's some people riding a tandem bike. You see those from time to time. My family actually had a tandem bike when we were growing up. I guess they still have it. Doesn't get ridden much these days though. And we had a child conversion kit on the back, which made it so that an adult could ride at the front and a kid could ride on the back. And that was something I have fond memories of, going out riding with my dad on the back of the tandem. And like I said, I think they were a lot more rare back then, because it seemed like every single person we would pass would take a double take looking at us. And you always get lots of comments going, "Oh, that's such a cool bike." So this area of the waterfront to our left is called Fixin Point, or at least that's what it's been known by for at least the last 50 years or so. I was reading an information display panel as I was riding this in the opposite direction, and it was saying that area in the 1940s and 50s, they had the owner of all this land down here at the waterfront, or at least that portion of the land, had subdivided the waterfront portion into cottage lots. So there was a time that there was cottages built at that point there, and that area was known as Fixin's Point. But as far as I know, like I said earlier, I believe all this land along here has been, I'm guessing, expropriated or just sold to the city or the town. So it's all publicly owned, so I don't believe there are any cottages anymore that are right on the Lake Ontario waterfront here in Whitby. In fact, this land right here where we're riding now has a pretty long, or maybe not that long, but it has an even longer history of being a public piece of infrastructure. I was reading on another display panel that before the Second World War started, they were considering developing this area into a military base, specifically an Air Force base, and they were planning on relocating Camp Borden to this location here. And that never ended up happening, but they did end up having an airstrip, so like sort of a backup runway that was built here during the war. And it was sort of used as a backup for the Oshawa Municipal Airport, which is a fair bit north of here. And that airport also, or that airstrip also served Camp X, which was a sort of a spy or military intelligence, sort of a training facility that was, it's called Camp X because it was top secret, but it was apparently located somewhere along the Whitby waterfront. But in the recent past, they've redeveloped this section of land right along here along the waterfront and sort of renaturalized it again and planted native trees and wildflowers and things like that to revitalize it. I can remember when they first built this trail when I was a kid. I guess it was probably sometime in the 90s. I think the original trail was narrower than this, but it was nice, brand new pavement when it came down, and it was a great place to go rollerblading, which was starting to really catch on around the same time. So it was a place that we came with our rollerblades when we were kids, and it was fun. But yeah, it looks like they've repaved this in the last few years because it's quite smooth, but also wider too, which is another nice feature. And you can see there are lots of people out enjoying the trail here. Looks like lots of families too. Probably lots of people getting together for Thanksgiving with their families and getting to enjoy this nice weather today. And with it being the middle of October here in Ontario, we've got a lot of the leaves have changed colors. You'll see a lot of yellows and oranges and some reds along the way. I don't think we're quite at the full height of the fall colors yet, but I think we're probably about a week away or so, I would guess. Further north of here though, you know, where it's a little bit colder, they will have already sort of been past their height of the fall colors. So this park that we're riding through here now is called the Kiwanis Hayden Shore Park. And that building over on the right there through the trees is called the Hayden Shore Pavilion. And I remember when I was a kid growing up in Whitby that when we played soccer in the local house league system, that each year at the end of the season in early September or maybe even October, we would have a banquet there. And the banquet was just a pizza party. And they would award the teams that had won the most games and had won the tournament at the end their trophies or medals. Everyone got something. Participation medals at the very least. Thanks. And straight ahead here is another building that we're going to be curving around. This one on the right is the water treatment plant. So essentially the supply water, the water that comes out of your taps, comes from the lake out there, and it gets treated before it gets sent through the pipes and sent to your tap. Got another boardwalk section here. And this, I guess, is the Whitby Beach. And straight ahead from here, actually, I'll just point the camera over to the left a little bit past these people. And you can see the piers that lead for the entrance of the Whitby Harbour. So Whitby has its own little sheltered harbour here, where there are a number of boats parked. And Whitby actually used to be a commercial port. I guess maybe it still is for some things, but there isn't any big industry here anymore. But it used to serve important purposes for transporting goods around. There used to, for example, be a train that went from Whitby to Port Perry, which is connected up with the Trent Severn waterway system, connecting up with farms and other facilities that are further to the north. So goods would flow down through Lake Scugog to Port Perry, and then they would go on a train and they would come down here to Whitby, and then they would be able to be loaded onto larger vessels that could be sent around the Great Lakes or potentially even further beyond here. So we're now sort of heading in the north direction because we're curving around the Whitby Harbour, the water that you can see over on the left. And I don't believe I've ever actually spent any time in the harbor, as in on some sort of a boat or other watercraft. Although, looking at it today, I kind of feel like it might be fun. There's kind of lots of little branches and arms of it that might be fun to see. Now that I have a kayak, potentially some point I would bring that out here and explore. I'm sure that won't be happening this season though. So the Waterfront Trail continues again further in the north direction as it curves around the harbor. We'll get to see a little bit more of those boats that are inside this harbor up ahead at the Whitby Marina. And we're just gonna ride over top of a bridge for a short little branch of a creek that flows into that harbor. And this community down here, where the houses that are built down near the harbor, this area is known as Port Whitby. I think it was kind of developed separately from the town of Whitby, which you know has its own sort of downtown commercial strip. I made a video actually a couple of years ago riding my bike through downtown Whitby along Brock Street. And just ahead here to the left is the entrance into the Whitby Marina. And you can see that there are quite a few boats that are already out of the water and being parked on the land here. Most boats that are in all the yacht clubs and marinas don't spend their winters in the water. They take them out because of all the ice and things. I guess it can damage them, and I guess because they're not going to be used during that period too, it's better to sort of keep the wear and tear off the boats, extend their lives a bit. So we're just going to turn left onto Watson Street here. The road we were on a moment ago is called Charles Street. And I guess what they've done through here is they've taken the area where the existing sidewalks were, and they've widened them out into this nice big wide paved trail to allow the Waterfront Trail to head through here. And up ahead here, we're just about to enter a park known as Victoria Park, which is a big grassy park that has a lot of soccer fields in it. And the Waterfront Trail continues over that way, but I'm actually going to curve around to the right here because, as I mentioned, I'm only going to be filming the eastern portion of the Waterfront Trail. It does continue over there to the left, but I'm not going to be covering that in this video. I'm just going to head up this way to Henry Street, which is another north-south street here in Whitby. And the street that's straight ahead is called Victoria Street. So this intersection is Victoria Street and Henry Street. And just beyond here to the left is the Iroquois sports complex arena. I believe they have actually 6 arenas that are in that complex. And the facility that you can see over there on the right side of this intersection is the Whitby GO Station. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed joining me on this narrated tour today. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.